This is the Smoked Debrief. Light up, lock in, and let's get to it.
Hello, I'm Jim. I'm Hollywood. This is Smoked Debrief. What we got today? According to you, 1,000. According to that label, a rapper. I could have swore that I got 6,000 bucks. However, it is what it is. This is like a $6 cigar, $7 cigar. You got a juice? Obviously, you didn't do any show prep. Obviously, I did. Somebody was cool. Be very careful because I know how you are with liquid fuel. We almost lost Jim this week. He was driving around in a warehouse with an 8-foot, 9-foot ceiling with a forklift, and he almost absconded the fumes of the propane. That would have been a sad, sad moment. Aren't you glad that Elon Musk didn't buy Aston Martin? I would love for somebody to try to vandalize. I'm not going to jail. Is that not crazy? Isn't that crazy? Well, it would be better for the vandals if they did pick on Aston Martin, because Aston Martin doesn't have cameras all the way around. Not that monitor, and we got cameras. The Tesla does? Yeah, Tesla's got cameras all over it. You can put it. And they sent an update out to all the vehicles, the ones on the dealership, and I guess to the people who have bought them too, to activate Sentry mode full time, so the cameras are always watching. And I hope they catch these people. You're catching some of them? I would think so. I know they've caught a few of them, and they've been charged. I hope they catch every one of them. They're just stupid. That's crazy. I mean, and they think, like, there was one video, Sentry mode. Well, think of it. I mean, they're environmentalists. They want to make the world a better place. Yeah. Joe Biden wants us all to go electric, so I'm going to buy a Tesla. They caught this one guy key in the car. He thinks he's so stealth. He's holding the key down by his side like he's just casually walking by a Tesla, and he scratches it. Then one of the other camera catches the guy going right into his apartment. You see him right there with his buddy or his girlfriend, but he goes in, it shows his apartment number. There's the name of a business right next to it. Yeah, perfect. I mean, perfect view of him going into his apartment right after he does it. They're stupid. They're just stupid. You know what really, really made me laugh? Tim Walz, the guy that was who even thought that he would be good vice presidential candidate? But he was Kamala's running mate, right? So he made a big speech yesterday or the day before about how happy he was that Tesla was in the toilet, failing to look and realize Minnesota state's pension and 401 invested in Tesla. Come on, man. What a dumbass. He is a perfect example of a beta male. And that is exactly what the Democrats got. They're all a bunch of beta, whiny butts. They might as well go to Hollywood and work. Well, that's not true. And here's why. They may be beta in appearance, but a lot of them voted for Trump. When you know they did. That wouldn't have happened. Trump would have not got the votes he did. That's the most alpha thing they could have done. If they hadn't secretly voted for Trump. And you can pretend that they didn't. You can act like, but they did because they're sick of the shit. But, they're sick of a minority ruling the majority. The Democrats have gone from burning crosses to burning Teslas. What do you mean? Are you trying to say that the Democratic Party supported the founders of the KKK? Is that what you're trying to say? That's what I did say. That can't be right. I mean, we have to. Well, there's no history to look back on. Well, that's true. Really? Yes. The Democrats founded the Ku Klux Klan. But they've changed. If you're going to burn an EV, burn a Prius. If there's any EV out there, that's not even really an EV, it's a hybrid. But if you're going to burn one, that would be the one. Sorry, I brought up a sore subject with Jim right off the bat today. It's only a sore subject because the fact that people think that they can go, vandalize someone's private property because they're pissed off at the manufacturer of that property. That makes no sense, but they don't have a brain. I mean, I think they all share some big brain. It's some sci-fi thing where there's one moronic brain that controls all of the liberals and the Democrats. Go in and they tell the brain what to transfer, send signals out. But I don't think any of the vandalism is happening in the South. Well, no, you know what? Oh, South Carolina. And they busted the guy, I think, because he caught himself on fire. Yeah. And there are these environmental warriors
and they're going to go burn a Tesla with the battery that will burn forever. You don't ever know when it's going to go out.
Oh, it takes special firefighting equipment to put it out.
Yeah, a dumpster. That's exactly what it is. They take the car and they lift it up and they put it in a dumpster.
Seriously?
Except the dumpster's painted like red or yellow or something.
It's a special dumpster?
It's a dumpster. It's painted special.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. It's a dumpster.
Really?
There might be some kind of weird lining in it, but I doubt it. It's a dumpster.
This is silky smooth. I don't know if it's going to have much flavor. We'll see, but it's silky smooth.
Good smoke. Very nice.
This whole series, 6,000, 7,000, they're like $6. So are you feeling any ill effects with your near brush with death?
But not today.
When did you first realize you were in trouble?
As soon as I stepped off of the fork truck, and it was like I started seeing stars. And I'm like, holy shit.
Was the door closed?
No, the bay was open.
The bay was
The
open.
bay was open. But it made me realize there's no air circulating in this building. So I'm going to have to there is an exhaust fan for when the equipment was back there. And they had exhaust fans for each one of the equipment. But
Did you call Carrie and say, I'm about to kick it?
I've only done that once.
Oh, really?
No, I just came in here, sat down, and just chilled for a little while. Drank some water, and just chilled for a little while, and got in the car and went home. And as soon as I got out of the car, like that again, I was like, "Oh my Lord!" And I just told Gary, I said, "I got to go lay down for a little while." And then my head just started pounding.
Were you dehydrated too, maybe?
No, I don't think I was dehydrated. It did give me a serious headache, and I don't get headaches very often, but it was
April 17th.
And that was Hollywood. I'll give him a little shout out. Buddy Harold, he's a regular at the coffee shop. He's been watching the podcast, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate everybody. We talk a lot of shit, but it's all in good fun, except for people that vandalize other people's private property. There's a special place in hell, and I hope you get to experience it soon. It's a good smoke.
Did I miss anything?
Now, is that the Hollywood?
You know what? It freaking hurts.
It does.
I try to tough it out as much as possible, but it freaking hurts.
I know.
The other night, there was a termite infestation at Big Panda Studios, so I had to clean out my room. Or you put the beautiful TV.
Yeah.
Where I've been watching True Detective and
The Warriors.
Yeah, I watched The Warriors.
Did you watch Less Than Zero?
Not
Robert Downey Jr. It's got James Spader in it too,
So I'll watch it.
playing his classic uppity, spoiled rich guy who is also the drug dealer. And in classic James Spader style, like he's done his whole life, he kills it.
Yeah, he's a
He's a
great
good
actor.
actor.
He's a great actor. He's, because he was in the 80s, he was never really appreciated. You know what I mean?
You know who was
Because
a star in the 80s that I absolutely cannot stand? Rob Lowe. And do you know why I can't stand him? Because he has not aged one bit.
He does that.
Damn.
He does that police or fireman show, right?
Yeah.
And he looks the same age.
He was there was a movie called Oxford Blues.
Football movie.
No. You're thinking Varsity Blues.
Okay.
Oxford Blues. He was in Las Vegas, and I think he started out, he was like an escort or something, and he was hooked up with this rich woman. And this all happens at the beginning of it when the titles are going by. What do they call that?
The title?
When the titles are going by and they start the story while the credits, at the beginning of the movie.
Like James Bond?
No, never mind. Anyway, while the title, the beginning of the movie is rolling,
Okay.
it's like a quick thing where they're showing him.
Yeah.
He's hooked up with this rich chick in Las Vegas, gambles, got to get a bunch of money. He gets money, goes to the UK because he pays his way to get into Oxford.
Oh, so it's about the college Oxford.
Yeah.
In England.
Yeah.
That's in Great Britain.
He's a rower. So he gets on the rowing team and they haze him quite a bit. And then there's this one chick, I can't remember who it is that plays her, but she's a princess and she's going to Oxford.
And she falls in love with him.
So that's, yeah. But it is a pretty funny movie because I think he had an old Corvette, like a 57 or some Corvette that he brought with him.
What?
Yeah. And he gets stuck. Like he's driving it one evening and he's drunk and he gets stuck between two buildings and he has to leave it. But that was a good movie. And growing up in the 80s was pretty cool. We had some great movies. The Deer Hunter. I remember I never saw The Deer Hunter when it came out. I didn't see it until I was older, But I remember being in Tennessee, and one of the older kids on the block had gone and saw it, and he was in there telling us all about it. So, and I remember him telling us a story about the Russian roulette scene and all that. But that was a good movie. And
I watched the Bob Dylan
No Direction Home.
No Direction Home.
That's the same guy, same kid that played Elton John, wasn't it? I think it is.
He's excellent, but the problem was it's a very dark film as far as cinematography in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And the girl that looks like Joan Baez, and the girl that plays Joan Baez, and the girl that plays his girlfriend look a lot alike. So it's confusing.
So yeah, that's hype.
So you had to know the story. I mean, I knew the story, so I knew it was his girlfriend. If you didn't know the story, you would have found it a little confusing.
Huh. Did it have, I haven't seen it yet. It's in my queue, but did it have where he wrecked on his motorcycle and it changed his voice?
66.
So I was born in 66.
That's when he crashed.
Hey, lady. Yes. That was before the crash. And then after.
It caused my You don't have to sing now to be a star.
In the 80s were the peak of music.
Have you ever seen the video Waiting for a Star to Fall?
No. What's that? Is that a song? No, we're going to get copyrighted again.
You can cut it. I just want to show you. There's a video to the song Waiting for a Star to Fall.
Is it?
That's it.
Yeah, I got you.
But the video shows scenes from all the movies of the 80s.
Oh.
It's amazing.
There is a guy I follow on Instagram, and his father, Jeffrey, it was spelled with a G, but Jeffrey Lewis, and he was in a bunch of Clint Eastwood movies. And his sister is Juliette Lewis. Well, his name is Lightfield Lewis, and he has all of these evidently VHS recordings from back in the day when they were growing up, and he was with like people who were child stars and stuff, and he has his father passed away a few years ago, but you'd recognize his father, Sean. But he does these videos, and like 16 Candles comes back, and reminisces about 16 Candles. He puts together what he does is really good. He's got videos of like when he was younger, and he's playing guitar, and it's Billy Idol, and it's just so cool because he grew up, same age. So you just see him go up, and he did this one. It was a 16 Candles tribute. He's showing all the people. Then I think it was a diss on Molly Ringwald because Molly Ringwald disavows 16 Candles movies she was in
the Club and all those.
Yeah, because they were white privilege and all this other crap. And it's like, okay, well, those movies made you who you are today. I'm sure you're not turning down those checks, but his videos are really cool.
It's called Waiting for a Star to Fall, a tribute to 80s entertainment. That's the video on YouTube.
Okay.
You have to watch it. It's great.
All right. I'll watch it, and I'll put a link.
And maybe it was done. Yeah, put a link. Maybe it was done by that guy.
It's possible. Let's see here.
What's the guy's name?
Lightfield Lewis.
You know who else had an age? He's aged but still looks young.
What's that? Who that?
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon.
And he's been married to Kyra Sedgwick.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen their videos?
I have seen a couple of them, but it's IFL 84. Lightfield Lewis. Here's his.
Don't forget, Waiting for a Star to Fall 80s tribute.
I don't want to play it because it'll get copyrighted.
We don't need cover, but put it in the remarks so people can look at it.
He has a picture of his father on here.
You know what else you should do?
Eddie Van Halen tribute. There's the Valley Girl.
There's that. That's cool. Look at it.
Yeah.
Like all the, I do look at them.
I'm sending it to the Hollywood.
Okay, Hollywood.
This video.
Yeah. Okay, I'll definitely check it out. Look, I got a message on Instagram.
It's probably from me. I know how you are. You're somewhere, and you're like, oh, hold on, might be important. Oh, it's just Jim. What were you saying?
I text you so much we should be dating.
Yeah, I call you on a Monday, and you're like, are we dating now? So now I don't communicate with you. I'm not.
No, we're breaking up because you're not going golfing with me on Monday.
My Lord.
I can't believe I have to work today. Dan's birthday.
Oh, is it? Happy birthday, Dan.
Happy birthday to Dan. He's 38.
Woo.
And seems 17.
Man, I would love to be 38 again.
So would I. I'd be a millionaire now. If I had 25% of the money that I spent on women, bro, if I knew now, if I knew then what I knew now, if you could go back, what age would you go back to? If you had to go back, what age would you go back to?
If I had to go back,
Yep. Or what year?
82 or 83. 83, because that's when I signed up to go in service.
That's when I went in the service. 82.
Yeah. Well, I hit the delayed entry program in 83. And then I went in 84. There was a year delay.
How old are you? When's your birthday?
October 16, 1966. But I would know if I knew then what I know.
You'd have fucking had some better footwear on.
I would have that, and I would have gotten into some different schools and stuff that I wanted to do. I would have got it in writing. But I was so stupid. All I knew was I wanted to be infantry, and I know the recruiter was like, ching, 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 ching. He got me. But I went into the Marines. I was in the Marines delayed entry. And one day we're at the apartment, my mom she said, you're going into the service after the summer. So you don't need to go, you don't need to work or anything. You just enjoy your summer before you go. I said, okay, thank you. And so over at the apartments at the swimming pool, and I always kept seeing this guy on this Honda. It was a CBR. I don't know if it was a 600.
CRV.
No, it was a CBR 600.
Oh, motorcycle, not the car.
I don't think they had a CRV even.
That little tiny car.
That's a Civic. This is a motorcycle.
Well, tell the story right.
CBR 600, and it was turbocharged, and it had these gold discs. The wheels were gold and the gold disc. And I just remember the bike. And one day he comes in and he's in his uniform. It's like, okay, he's an Army recruit.
Whose apartment were you at?
The apartment's here in the Brittany and here in Burlington.
Friend of yours, or you just hung out there?
Because we lived there with my mother. And he comes up and starts talking to me. I saw you at the recruiting station. He's like, yeah, I'm going in the Marines. And he said, really, what are you going to be doing? I don't know. And he said, well, the Army will pay you cash. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, come and see me. I said, okay. That following Monday, I went into the recruiting station of the Army, and he put that laser disc on. They had this big laser disc player in there.
Laser disc?
Yeah.
That was some high quality shit.
For those of you who don't know,
laser disc was high quality
CD.
But it was high quality shit.
Yeah. Oh, the beautiful picture. And he shows this video, and it's these guys, on these boats paddling out, chemoed up, and guns and stuff, and they're jumping out of airplanes and popping up out of the water, And
it was a Navy SEAL video that they pretended was Army.
Yeah, they put Army logos on the shit. But I said, I want to do that. And he said, well, that's the infantry. We'll give you $5,000 when you get out of school. I said, okay. So
what did the Marine Corps guy do?
Wasn't nothing they could do.
Never saw you again?
Never saw me again. Well, he did, but
was he mad?
Not really. It was after when I came home, Christmas Exodus, when I was right in the middle of basic at Fort Benning. They sent everybody home in the middle of Christmas. So
and you had to go back to basic training?
Yeah, then we had to go back.
Anybody not come back?
There was probably a couple, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure there was a couple.
That was a mistake.
Yeah. But I went to the recruiting office to see the recruiter, and then the Marine guy was in there. So, hey,
After you left, he kicked the fucking Army guy's ass.
I went with the money.
What was basic training like then?
At Fort Benning? I think when I got
there, advanced to the easy basic training, had it?
No, at Fort Benning at infantry school, we had the same drill instructors from basic into infantry, the AIT. So it was the full 13 weeks. You had the same drill instructors, and there was a difference in the way they acted. But when I first got there, they had us come in and then they had us do pull-ups, and there was a couple of people that couldn't do pull-ups. So they got booted back. They had to stay on post. They sent them, they had to do remedial PT or something to get them into shape.
Were you a handsome physical specimen?
I was pretty fit then, so I didn't have any issues with that. But the platoon sergeant that was there, we were there maybe a week or 2 weeks before we were assigned to our training outfit. And the sergeant that was there, I think he was like transitioning out or something, and then they just put him there, to fill his last few days or whatever. And we all went out and we're sitting down and we were filling out that card where you send to your parents or your loved ones, and I said, "I am okay. I will not be writing or calling for several weeks. I am okay." And
There was a script, right?
yeah, they had to write it down. And then I remember there was no postage on the card, and they had us draw a box and then write DD something on it for the military would pay the postage or whatever. But he sat us down one day, and after we had done that little letter, and he said, "I'm gonna tell you," he said, "you make it through the first 2 weeks, and you're gonna be okay." He said, "The first 2 weeks are gonna be the hardest. You just remember, if you make it through that, you're gonna be okay." And I always remembered that. And so when I got into basic, and of course you're coming off of that bus, they get on there and they start hollering and screaming, and you got your big duffel bag, and somebody lost their shower shoe, which is a flip flop. They lost their shower shoe and they wouldn't claim it. And the drill
They
sergeant
found one. They
found one shoe, and the drill sergeant's like, "Shower shoe," they're going around, "Is this your shower shoe?" "No, drill sergeant." "No, and nobody would claim it. First day, first experience, everybody had to dump their shit out right there, right next to our pile of shit. We're in the front lane arrest position, down, until somebody, and then they started going through, kicking everybody's stuff everywhere till they found whose damn shower shoe.
Well, did you know that your shower shoe
No,
wasn't
it wasn't my shower
But
shoe.
you didn't know, though, really, did you?
Well, I knew it wasn't mine.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, because I had my bag closed. Because I wasn't a dumbass.
Somebody had their back.
Because you're scrambling to get out that bus. But it was just some, random dude. It's like, Jesus. And they had us down doing push-ups. And they, you start, when you start, they put you down, you do 5. And then the next day you're doing 10. And then it goes to 20 and 30 and 40 and 50. And it just keeps on until you can knock out 100 push-ups under 2 minutes, no problem. But you don't know it then. You think they're just torturing you, but there is a method. That's why they do it. And I just kept remembering him saying, "First 2 weeks, you make it through the first 2 weeks." And I had one of my bunkmates, McKinney, big black guy, and we would be in the showers, and we were at Sand Hill, so we had nice barracks and showers, and they were all separate. McKinney's over there, and every time we'd be in the shower, McKinney would sing. I can't remember who sings it. "You are my lady,
You are my lady."
he would be singing it every time. Such a kick. Made it through, and then of course they send us, Christmas Exodus. Come home and go back. It was. I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked that structure and the physicality of it. I liked that. I like being in the mud and stuff, and they would show us when we first did hand to hand combat training, and we're all in that. You're in that big pit, the sawdust, and we had our ranger buddy. They paired us off and with our ranger buddies and everything, and then drill sergeant's like, "All right."
What's your ranger buddy?
It was your partner that you were assigned to,
Okay.
your bunkmate.
Who was your bunkmate? You remember?
I don't.
Did he make it?
Yeah, everybody made it. But he said, "All right, I need you to stand and face your ranger buddy." So we're sitting there looking at each other. He's like, "All right, with your left hand, grab your ranger buddy's belt." So we're like grabbing the belt. "Now pull it," and we're pulling it. And he said, "Now with your other hand, I want you to reach down and grab a handful of sawdust." So we had to reach down, grab a handful of sawdust, and we're putting sawdust in each other's pants. The drill sergeant said, "All right, now that everybody's got sawdust in their ass, you ain't got to worry about it." So commenced to do hand combat. They had a instructor come by. It was a Taekwondo instructor, big old white guy, and he was blind, and he was teaching self-defense, and like he was doing a demonstration with this blind guy, and here come all these other people trying to whoop his ass, and they weren't touching him. He's just like Steven Seagal.
You sure he was blind?
Not sure he was blind. They said he was. You know, he was like, they might have been bullshitting. I don't know. I wasn't gonna try to find out. I can't remember his name. I gotta find out if he's still around. There was one drill who had high and tight. I mean, his like high and tight. His hair was non-existent on the sides of his head, just straight up, you know, spiked, and he had a Hitler mustache. And he lived in Burlington, and
Really?
he found out
That you were from Burlington?
that was my homeboy. And he wasn't in my platoon. He wasn't my platoon drill sergeant. He was in the other platoon. But when we came home for Christmas exit,
He made you work out.
he showed up the day after I got home. That next morning, 4:00 in the morning, and of course I wasn't up, but my mom was. And she goes and answers the door and says, "Young, I'm here to get your boy." And my mom, okay, my mom comes and gets me.
Did she know who he was?
Well, she didn't know, so she said, "You've got company." And I went out there, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "Come on, young, we're gonna run some PT." I was like,
No
"What
way.
the hell,
No
man?"
way.
So
You did PT every morning?
have a break. We did it for about 3 days, and then it was Christmas, so you know he kind of laid off. But I didn't see him again until we got back, and then by then we had transitioned into AIT, so we were into the infantry school part. So it got a little laid back, and we're at the Ranger Tower, the rappelling tower at Fort Benning. I don't know what they call it now. It might be the same thing, but it was the big rappelling tower, and they had the Ranger logo on it. And he goes up on the top of that thing, and they're teaching us rappelling and stuff. He's like, "Where's my homeboy? Come on up here, young." He strapped me up. We did the Australian where you're going, and I fell in love with rappelling after that. It was so cool. When I got to Germany, I talked the supply sergeant into ordering rope, and then when we would on Saturday and Sunday when we had time off, we would go over and rappel off of this bridge that was over the Rhine River in Germany. Had a blast doing that stuff. It was so fun.
People don't really realize how great the military can be if you have the right attitude.
I would probably not be alive because I was a smart ass and I got in trouble a lot. But it's funny because when I came home, I couldn't work for anybody else. I worked and I worked well, but I didn't like it. I didn't like being told what to do anymore for some reason.
Well, part of the thing is you get such a commitment to what you're doing. If other people aren't as committed, it pisses you off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even for me, working with all these kids, 25, 35, they don't have the commitment.
Yeah.
And you can't blame them. It's just an entirely different generation. But that makes it hard. Like, I'm not doing anything this afternoon. So why wouldn't I go shoot? Because shooting's what I love. But I get it. I get it. I work my 5 days. I don't want to go do it. You know what I mean? That's how most people's attitude is. And I get that. I understand it. But I don't, which is weird.
It you know, I did when I came home. You know, you come home when I came home back then. They didn't have like career placement, anything like that. We separated. If I flew into Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and the first thing, because here I am out of the infantry, and we get to Fort Jackson
With no idea what you're going to fucking do.
and well, I was just separating. I was only there for a couple of days, but they put us up in the shittiest damn barrack you ever seen. I mean, they had to be in like World War I freaking barracks. But what I noticed was the lack of discipline with the soldiers who were there, who worked at Fort Jackson, like the clerks and all that. They were just
Personnel.
It was just I was like, how is this a place in the army?
Warfighters, not warfighters.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So and I got everybody, you know, all my family was like, "What are you going to do now that you're out?" You know, I don't know. I might go to school. I had my GI Bill. You know, I could have gone anywhere, but I didn't know what I wanted to take, so I never went. I took some.
Did you ever use your GI Bill at all?
No.
Do you still have it?
No, it's expired. But everybody was like, you know, heating and air. You get into refrigeration. That's a good job. It's like, okay, so I'll give that a shot. So I got a job working for this man, Tom Perry, it was Perry's Energy Contractors. And he taught me so much. And I don't know what it was. I think he figured out that I picked up on stuff. And I was an apprentice.
Because you're mechanically inclined.
Yeah. And I was an apprentice.
I mean, you
for a
can't
while.
set up a podcast and shit, though.
I'm doing pretty good today.
As far as we know. I mean, it could have stopped recording an hour ago.
But it hasn't. I'm looking at it. But I was an apprentice for about 4 weeks. Where I had to ride with somebody, and I'll never forget that man, James Rimmer. I learned so much about him. We would be in an office building up in the ceiling working on an air handler, and James was up there.
The owner?
No, he was the service tech that I was shadowing. He's up there making fart. He's like, and I can see through the grid women that are down below us, and they're all like, I'm about to die. But it just kept, and that's funny, that was one of his things. I learned so much from him. And the man was an artist with making duck. He could by hand. Nowadays they use lasers.
I heard that he's the guy that made the ducking for Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Is that true?
Not surprisingly. No, well, I will tell you this. There was this. We had a storm come through one year, and the Chinese restaurant, they had this huge sign that was all fluted. Had like a crown, and the sign got destroyed. And they came and asked if because we were like they knew we did sheet metal work, and James did it. I sat there with him, shadowing him while he was doing that stuff, and
He was managing.
he just cuts the patterns out, and I'm like, how the hell is that going to be that sign? And then you just see him folding stuff over, and he goes and puts it on the brake, and before you know it, here we had a brand new sign.
You know what would be nice? If we had a sign right there that says Smoked Debrief.
Okay, what could you? I wonder. You think we could borrow Nick's
and just change?
It's got a short in it.
Just change. No, that was a joke. Can you slide that?
Yeah, the TP with Tom Perry. He came to me one day and he said, I'm going to let you run service calls on your own now. So it's like, okay. Well, he stuck me with this 78 Ford F-150 long bed. It was like his
30 feet long, right?
It was his first service truck. So I was like, okay. So I had to go. I had service calls, and there's radio. At this time, we had radios in the truck, not CB, whatever the shortwave. I don't know, whatever kind of radios were there. Had no maps or anything. We didn't have navigation. There was a map in the office, and I would look, and they would keep me in a certain area, so I didn't have to go all over the place. Ms. Austin was the secretary, and when the service call would come in, she would get on there. So it's like, okay, I got it. Go do that. And when I would get out of the truck, I would close the door. I would just turn around and close the door like that. Well, I did it one time.
You caught your finger and
look, my nail was still fucked up. All I remember is I closed the door, and then jerked me back. So,
well, how did you transition from that to this being a stereo mogul?
I will always mess with stereos. I've done that since I was.
But it seems like you were enjoying this job.
I enjoyed it, but I was still working for somebody. But he taught me, like, I wanted to weld, and he had a welder. And the reason I wanted to learn how to weld is because at this time I had traded my motorcycle in on a Suzuki Samurai, but I wanted more legroom.
For y'all that don't know, a Suzuki Samurai is about the size of this table right here. In fact, when they first made them, they could not be imported to the United States because the wheelbase was too narrow.
Well,
I had a Suzuki Samurai in Guam.
I love that little car.
Those things were crazy, man.
It was 4-wheel, it would go. I never had any issues in the snow or anything.
Me and a couple other lieutenants in Guam had Suzuki Samurais. And on weekends, we might have taken some enlisted women. And we had the best time with those things because you could pick them up.
Yeah.
I mean,
we were so fun.
We'd get into places, we'd roll over on our sides. But there's 3 of us. We'd go over, we'd push it back upright. Yeah. Those were the greatest things ever. They wouldn't do 50 miles an hour. mean, if you hit a mosquito at 50, it'd destroy the whole vehicle.
But I enjoyed it. I had a personalized plate. It said Badzuki.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I did. And I put stereo system in it, built a sub box, had it in the back of it, and this was a soft top. So that's how
They were all soft tops back then.
Yeah,
When they first came out, though,
Yeah,
they were all soft tops.
it was so fun. We had but I wanted more leg room, and I was like, I'm gonna have to weld new. And so I wanted to ask TP. I said, TP, do you mind if I mess with the welder? And he's like, do you know how to use it? I said, no. And he took me over there, and it was a stick welder. And he got a piece of metal, and he showed me, and he said, here's your mask. And he said, you cut it on, and he said, you got your ground on there, and as soon as you tap that stick, he said, you got to strike it. And he said, as soon as you strike it, keep it down. And I said, okay. So I started welding, and ended up making my brackets and everything. It was so funny because I was in shorts and had like a tank top on. And the next day, I come into work, and I'm sunburned. And I could not understand. I was like, I didn't even lay out in the sun from the damn welder. And he got a pretty good kick out of that. But I made those brackets, and when I decided to leave, I worked for him for right at 2 years, and I decided to leave. And I told him, I want to do other things. He was like, okay. He gave me my first computer. I had a TRS-80 Radio Shack computer, and because he had a bunch that he used, his office that used those to do printing and handle accounts and stuff like that. And he gave me one, and I've forgotten most of it now, but I taught myself basic. And he gave me all of his old electronics books. He had a master's in electrical engineering.
No shit.
And yeah, he could go anywhere in the world and do electrical or refrigeration. That was his education, and he was
very educated.
Yeah, he was licensed. He had been in the Navy. Just super, super nice man. And after I started my business, he was a regular customer. I would do stuff for him, his wife, his daughter, his grandkids, and just super nice man.
So did you have business the minute you started your stereo shop?
When I
found the building and moved in right away, or you do that in your house or garage?
Well, I figured, because I had no idea how to start doing it or anything. I went to a local place and said, hey, I'd like to get a job here and work for you, because I wanted to learn, and nobody would hire me. So I went and had business cards printed up and did it that way, and had the house phone number on the apartment phone number. And I would go to car washes, hand out my card. Hey, you need some stereo work done. And I had some regulars that were always wanting to do stuff, and they would tell their friend, and then I would do their friend. And on the weekends, when I wasn't working, I would be doing stereo installations in the parking lot of the apartment. And
can you imagine if you tried to do that now?
Yeah.
Someone be calling the cops, and it's
crazy. No way you can do it now.
How do you think of the smoke?
I like it smooth.
For a $6 cigar?
For a $6 cigar is comparable to a $20 cigar.
No, it really is. The Padrón 1000 series are great smoke. And I'd never smoked one. And this guy goes, here, I got a 6,000. And I'm thinking, he goes, and then I asked him, I said, what did it cost? He goes, $6. And I'm thinking, well, it is a Padrón. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't.
Padrón's a great cigar company.
I'm not as much an aficionado as you are.
Padrón is
you have more experience.
What I say, one of the big families of cigars.
Yeah.
Padrón, Fuente, who else? They made cigars for everybody forever, since you did it. And about 7 years ago, they started coming out with their own line. They're a little too expensive, but those were the cigar families that really made the cigar industry take off. So when the boom happened.
Do you think a lot of people equate a good cigar with how much it costs?
Yes.
Found myself doing that.
But I've shown you, right?
Yeah.
I've shown you that, because most of the cigars that I've been bringing are under $10.
The two kids that work at the coffee shop, that went to the UK, I haven't heard from them yet, but there was a fire at Heathrow. All flights were canceled.
Yeah, like 20,000 people were stranded.
Well, I was worried that they were still over there, and they came back the day before. They flew out the day before, but I haven't heard whether they brought us back some Monte Cristos or whatever.
Those might be real compared to that Monte Cristo that you get us the other day, which I'm never going to stop giving you shit about because it was like the worst thing I've ever smoked in my life.
Talking about the Hoyo de Monterey.
I mean, really, wasn't that the worst you ever smoked?
Yes. Oh my Lord. I've smoked cigarettes that were better than that.
Yeah.
And that was Camel no filters.
What did you learn from that, Jim?
Not to trust a guy named Chico selling. No, it's Chico. I love Chico. But Chico was misled as well. I got 3 boxes. I've got a box of
Hickeys. Well, you'll have to bring one of those in so I can ask you about that.
Romeo and Julietas. But I have smoked them, and they're not bad.
Well, good. Look, it doesn't matter. If you smoke it, and it's good and you like it, well, then that's all that matters. You get on these Facebook, well, there's not any groups anymore because of the smoking. Facebook bans smoking groups. I'm pretty sure. Are they? Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're not policed heavily, but you can't have any fun.
You cannot.
Remember when you could talk shit on Facebook and everybody was happy,
The bullies, though, made it. There's bad bullies on Facebook and on social media.
Some people are mean.
And, that's
I can't say that I wasn't one of them.
I have censored myself many a time.
But, the thing that gets me is like,
Because people can't take a joke.
Yeah.
You can't even joke that.
And most of the people that you're friends with on Facebook, when it started, you're friends with them in real life.
That's right.
So they all know you. They know your sense of humor. Right. And the majority of my friends I grew up with.
Right.
Grade school on up through high school.
But you can't even post things that are obviously ridiculous anymore. Because
without them getting butthurt. And it's like, when did my friends become so super sensitive? It's insane. I would never, somebody might say something to me and I might take it the wrong way and I would tell them, they would know. But I wouldn't think of like, I wouldn't think of unfriending them like, you said that, you're not my friend anymore. No, I mean, if somebody came up and started cussing me out and calling me all kinds of names and insulting my family, that's different.
Hillbilly, redneck.
Yeah. But even that, it's just crazy, because we weren't like that when we were growing up.
Well, because also in the past, if you were an asshole, there were consequences.
Yeah,
But now you can be an asshole with no consequence.
You know what I attribute it to? The ones who have changed are all college educated. All my friends that I grew up with that are
sensitive entitlements,
liberal, they all went to college.
Jim, liberal's not a bad. It's okay to be liberal, just like it's okay to be conservative.
Yeah.
As you can tell, folks,
but
there's
you can't be
these two guys right here.
But you can take it to extremes.
Of course.
And unfortunately, like right now with people vandalizing private property, that's a bit of liberalism that is insane.
Because the outrage, if you were doing it to them, would be...
Oh, if depending on the administration, we would be locked up, like January 6th. Those poor people.
Wait a minute. All said that January 6th is as bad as December 7th.
Come on, it's stupid.
And on that note, this has been Smokers Debrief. We smoked a Padrón 7000 today, which we both loved, right?
Yeah. Very good smoke for this one.
If you're looking for a daily smoke every single day, Padrón 6000 series.
7000. This is the 7000.
That's the one. I'm Hollywood Herd.
I'm Jim.
This has been the Smokers Debrief. This has been the Smoked Debrief.
The Smoked
Debrief.